On the fateful day of February 13th, 2004, a beloved and brave firefighter will respond to the call of duty for the last time. I'm going to take a deep dive into the honorable life of Lieutenant Brenda Cowan, and I will discuss the events leading up to her passing, as well as the aftermath of her untimely demise. Lieutenant Brenda Denise Cowan was born on May 9, 1963, in Sturgis, Union County, Kentucky, USA. She was the daughter of Ella Irene Dawson and the Reverend Tab Frank Scott Cowan Sr., who was a minister at the city's New Salem Baptist Church. Brenda had 5 siblings, and one of them was Fred Cowan, a member of UK's 1978 National Championship winning basketball team. Brenda attended Union County High School, where she played for the Brevettes basketball team. Brenda was named MVP of the girls' basketball team in 1979 and 1981. Brenda also ran track, and during the summer, she participated in league baseball, both co-ed and women's. Brenda then graduated high school as an honor student. She attended higher education, and in 1986, Brenda then graduated from the University of Kentucky with a degree in psychology. Later on, Brenda landed a job as a firefighter, and she was actually the first African-American woman firefighter to be hired by the Lexington Division of Fire and Rescue Services when she joined the department on November 3, 1992. Brenda had worked at Station 18 Fire Department throughout her employment. Brenda not only was trained on how to deal with fires, but she also trained as a paramedic who specialized in administering emergency medical care to deliver basic life support, and rare cases, deliver advanced life support. After more than 10 years on the job, due to her hard work and dedication, Brenda was recognized and rewarded for her work, and just 3 days before her death on February 10, 2004, 40-year-old Brenda was promoted to lieutenant. On the first tour of duty, after being promoted to lieutenant, on Friday, February 13, 2004, Brenda and her engine company 18 were called to a report of a female down in a yard at Adams Lane, so they carefully approached the scene on foot, with their engine staged away from the scene because they were unsure what had happened to the woman. When they got to the scene, they found a woman named Fontaine Hutchinson, who was down and bleeding from her head, outside her rural South Lexington home. Brenda and the firefighter, Jim Sanford, looked at her wounds. The victim had already passed away, and an AED was being applied to confirm the death. The ambulance drove to the victim's location. As the ambulance arrived, shots were fired at the responders. The shots came from the victim's husband, 45-year-old Patrick Hutchinson, who had barricaded himself in his home. Brenda and the firefighter were struck and took cover behind a tree. And there were 6 other firefighters who were pinned down by the gunfire. Brenda was unfortunately struck a second time. A police officer that had responded to the initial call tried to provide cover for fire and EMS responders by placing his car between the source of the gunfire and the responders. Once enough police officers arrived on the scene, Brenda and the firefighter were removed from the scene by police rescue team. Once they were out of the dangerous area, life-saving procedures were initiated on Brenda, and she was transported by ambulance to a nearby hospital, where she was pronounced deceased from her injuries. Brenda, at that time, was believed to be the first African-American female career firefighter ever to pass away in the line of duty. The injuries of the other firefighter, Jim Sanford, were less severe, and he was released from the hospital 2 days after the incident. The shooter, Patrick Hutchinson, was taken into police custody 6 hours after the start of the incident. It was said that police used 15 rounds of tear gas to smoke Patrick out of the house. He was charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. Patrick pleaded not guilty to the charges during his initial arraignment, but things slowed for a couple of years because his state of mind was at issue. Patrick was sent to a Central State Hospital in Louisville since the incident, receiving treatment for paranoid schizophrenia. Apparently, on the day of the incident, Patrick spoke to a reporter who actually called him accidentally while attempting to call his neighbors. And what he told the reporter was that he was staging a coup against human clones. In November of 2004, during a hearing, Lexington police played a recorded interview of a detective interviewing Patrick after his arrest. During the interview, Patrick discussed about the Ark of the Covenant, disguised evil souls, aliens, and clones, which included his wife and Lexington law enforcement and firefighters. When he was asked why he killed his wife, he responded saying that she was nagging him, that she kept fussing at him. He reportedly said, "I couldn't take it anymore. She's been nagging for years, right after they replaced her with a clone. They killed my wife, a good woman, and replaced her with a clone." So, Patrick told the police that he killed his wife for those exact reasons, and he also wanted to make it clear that he didn't kill any humans that day and that his only victims were clones. Patrick was evaluated by a couple of doctors, including a psychiatrist at the Kentucky Correctional Psychiatric Center, and the psychiatrist testified in November 2004 that the treatment had helped Patrick cope with some of his more bizarre delusions, such as the belief of an alien invasion and that he was SA'd by the late comedian George Burns. At the time, Patrick was not fit to stand trial, but should continue treatment for several months with the goal to eventually be fit to stand trial. Brenda had a funeral, a homecoming celebration, which was led by 10 local pastors who spoke of hope and of faith that she moved on to a better place. Fire Department Chaplain Stuart Dawson said, "His angels came down and loaded that sweet spirit that we know into their ambulance." Brenda's body, which was in an American flag-draped coffin, was on top of Engine 33 outside Consolidated Baptist Church. Throughout the town, a radio dispatcher read, "This is the last call for Lieutenant Brenda Cowan, badge number 324. She served the Lexington Fire Department from November 3, 1992 to February 13, 2004. May you rest in peace." There was a 21-gun salute, and Brenda's body was escorted on a 6-mile procession through Lexington, eventually towards her final resting place. Afterwards, in March of 2005, Brenda's estate filed a lawsuit over her death. The lawsuit accused top Lexington Fayette Urban County government officials, 911 operators, and emergency dispatchers of negligence. Basically, her estate believed that the 911 operators, dispatchers, and EMS personnel did not accurately relay details of the call to Brenda and her crew at the time of the incident. The lawsuit was also against the Lexington Mayor, Teresa Isaac, Fire Chief Robert G. Hendricks, and Police Chief Anthony Beatty, and among others at the time when the lawsuit was filed. Brenda's estate was seeking compensation for her pain and suffering, wrongful death, loss of capacity to labor and earn income, right to future benefits, damages for loss of life, and medical and funeral expenses. The city officials responded and basically said that they weren't responsible for her death. and that it was all Patrick's doing that caused her demise. And it was also mentioned that Brenda's estate was already paid a lump sum death benefit of $57,779.31 in workers' compensation a month after Brenda's death. The aftermath of the lawsuit is currently unknown. As well, in March of 2005, the Brenda D. Cowan Act, Senate Bill 217, unanimously passed the Kentucky Senate. The bill would amend Kentucky Revised Statutes 508.025 relating to assault in the third degree to provide that an individual is guilty of assault in the third degree when he causes or tries to cause physical injury to emergency medical services personnel, organized fire department members, and rescue squad personnel. This bill seeks to add extra protection for police, firefighters, and other emergency personnel under Kentucky state law and considers them as a protected class of people under the state's hate crimes law. In doing so, any judge that determines an attack was motivated by someone's status as a first responder can allow a criminal to serve more of their sentence and lessen their chances of getting probation. For some, this is the way to go. However, some don't believe it is fair to treat a victim differently whether they have a badge or not, and that it pushes an idea that some lives are more valuable than others. As well, some find issue grouping emergency personnel and people targeted because of their race and sexual orientation together in the same hate crime category, and that the amended bill won't act as an effective deterrent. Overall, the bill is in effect now, so hopefully it will help prosecutors to get a conviction more easily in these special cases. So, back to Patrick. He had been evaluated yearly since 2004 and was now fit to stand trial. But there was a proposed plea deal that wanted to do away with the trial. Basically, under the terms of the agreement, prosecutors recommended that Patrick be sentenced to 25 years in prison in exchange for pleading guilty. Even the judge ultimately agreed that the plea agreement, which would guarantee prison time, would be better than a trial. The reason why is that even if there's a chance that he'll be found guilty and get the death penalty, it's also possible that he'll be found not guilty by reason of insanity, making him free. So, after pleading guilty in 2009, Patrick Hutchinson was sentenced to 25 years in prison for the death of Brenda, plus 20 years for killing his own wife, 10 years for shooting another firefighter, and another 10 years for shooting at a police officer. The sentences will be running concurrently. He is currently at the Kentucky State Reformatory, and his records show that he will be eligible for parole in December 2028. In February of 2019, it was announced that Brenda would begin a school named after her after a unanimous vote by the Fayette County Board of Education. The location of the elementary school would be within the coverage area of Station 18, where Brenda was stationed during her time in the Lexington Fire Department. It was said that naming the school after her was a fitting tribute to her and her memory, since Brenda was deeply dedicated to the community and invested a lot of her time in the youth. On August 12, 2019, there was a ribbon-cutting ceremony to officially celebrate the opening of the Brenda Cowan Elementary School. Friends and loved ones of Brenda remembered her as having an addicting smile and compassion for others, and her involvement with her church family. Although Brenda was single and had no children, she had a love for children and had the ability to befriend them due to her becoming a mentor for young girls and being a friendly neighborhood firefighter. When it came to her colleagues at the Lexington Fire Department, Brenda was described as a hard worker with a great attitude and an unmatched sense of humor. As well, Brenda was viewed as a huge part of their Fire family. Although a senseless act of violence took the life of a beloved community figure, it did not erase the impact that she had on those who loved and treasured her. Brenda will always be remembered as being kind, caring, brave, and a pillar of her community. This is all for now on this case. Let me know your thoughts on it. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Your support is really much appreciated. And I will see you next time on Melanin Mysteries.